تفت فؤادك الأيام فتى وتنحت.
Hassan, what does it mean? Hassan means the 5 conditions that we studied. We studied 5 conditions, right? How many have to be present for authentic? 3. And how many have to be absent?
2.
Hassan is exactly the same, except the memory is a bit low. The rest is the same. It's the same thing, just the memory is not 100%. Sahih, 100%, right? Are you with me? His memory is, it's a bit down. But it's like 60%. What he gets right is more than what he gets wrong. It's like 60 or 70 or 80%. In terms of acceptance, yes. But except the memory is a bit low. As for the chain of narration, it's connected. As for the narrator being just, this is just. As for the hadith of having no opposition, it doesn't have no opposition. Defect, no, it doesn't have no defect. Just the one thing from the 5 is what? The memory. The memory isn't like that. Sahih is like big men in their memory. He's a bit lower than them. Bit lower than them. So he's like 80%, 70%, 60% in memory. 50%, that's weak.
So, in a generation, if there was somebody, and basically when he was young, he would get it, but as he went old, his memory was lost. His narration will become Hassan.
If his memory goes,
Like he's getting old, like when he was young.
anytime his memory goes, the more he gets it right, and the more he gets it wrong, the more he gets it wrong is more, then he's weak.
And that's because remember we become Hassan, depends on the time of his
Does he
life.
become Hassan?
If he's,
When he become older.
it depends if he gets it right more or if he gets it wrong more. Which one does he do? If he gets it right more, then he's Hassan. If he gets it wrong more, he's da'if, he's weak. We don't take his narration. Are you all with me? So, if the narration, so what did we say? The Hassan and the Sahih, what's the difference? Musa.
It's exactly the same in terms of acceptance, except the memory is lower than that of Sahih.
That of Sahih. Very good. As for the other 4, it's the same. The chain of narration, they're both connected. Both of them, Sahih and Hassan, is the chain connected? Yes. Are the both of the narrators, are they reliable? Good. Is there opposition in both of them? No. Is there defect in both of them? No. Is the memory the same? No. Just the difference is the memory. Sahih has a bigger, stronger, the men are more stronger in memory. And Sahih Hassan is what? Very weak memory. Not very weak, but weak.
The entire chain is just one man has weak memory becomes Hassan.
Yes. Just one man, he puts it Hassan, yeah, I know. Just one man makes the ruling Hassan. Okay, what about if a defect comes from the, so we said that, what about if the hadith, are you listening, brothers? What about if the problem comes from the riwayah, from the adalah?
No, just the
Does that become da'if?
so reliability.
The reliability of the narrators. It's weak. If a narration from the 5 conditions of Sahih, the reliability is missing, it's either fabricated or weak, depending. If it's a liar, then it's fabricated, Sahih. Because we mentioned the reliability is 4 or 5 things in Islam: reach age of puberty, reach age of puberty and saying that's what 3, 4. Naam, and has good code of conduct. Any 5 of those, it depends which one it is. It sometimes may become munkar, sometimes it may become mawdu'. Depends on what the chain is, okay? Are you all with me? Okay. So if from the 5 things that we mentioned from the Sahih, if the memory is gone, he gets more wrong than he gets right. What is it? Da'if. What about if the adala is problem? It's either da'if or mawdu', fabricated. Mawdu' means fabricated. We're going to come to it. It's in the back. It's going to come to us. What about if the chain of narration is disconnected? Weak, da'if. Are you with me? Weak. So the only thing that can be deducted a bit is what? The memory of the people. Sahih. So now we're going to go to the 3rd type, which is what? Da'if. Da'if, we mentioned what it is. وَكُلُّ مَا عَرْ رُتْبَةِ الْحُسْنِ قَصُورٍ. anything that goes lower than the status, the position of Hassan is what? Da'if. وهو أقساما كثر, and it's different, so many types. The da'if is how many types? The da'if is many types. I'm going to summarize something for you, beneficial. The weak is only 2 types. Are you all with me? If any hadith is ever weak, it's one of these 2. Listen to it attentively. How many conditions did we say has to be found in the authentic hadith? Vafa. No, from the 5, how many have to be present? What are they?
Connection
Of the chain of narration. Second?
must be
Yeah, memory. Good. MashaAllah, no problem. Memory. Yeah, memory and reliability. Good. May Allah bless you. Bless you. If the hadith has a chain of narration problem or a reliability problem, those are the only 2 reasons why the hadith becomes weak. Believe with me? It's weak, it's da'if. إما الطعن في الراوي, the narrator is being criticized because of his justness. That's one. Or السقط في السند, the chain of narration is disconnected. Are you with me? Those are the 2 reasons why any hadith becomes weak ever. Hey, Bismillah. The Shaykh now goes on to another type of the characteristics or the types of hadith that there are. وما أضيف للنبي المرفوع وما لتابع هو المقطوع. We're going to go into this type, which is المرفوع والمقطوع. What is a marfu' and what is a maqtu'? What is a marfu' and what is a maqtu'? Before we were studying the chain of narration, when we were talking about Hassan, when we were talking about Sahih, and when we were talking about Da'if, what we were studying? We were studying the chain. Now, marfu' and maqtu' are more like of the word, who's the sayer of this word. So it's not only the sanad only now that we're studying, but now we're studying the chain and the wording. Whose wording is this hadith? Who said this? If the Prophet said the hadith, it's called marfu'. Marfu'. وَمَا أُضِيفَ, anything that is ascribed to the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, al-marfu'u, it's called marfu'. So when the scholars of hadith say, hadithun marfu'un, this hadith is marfu', they mean the Prophet said it. Or if they say, rafa'ahu fulan, so and so made this hadith marfu', it means the Prophet said it. It means the Prophet said it. And the hadith to be marfu' is types. It is types, and it's 5 types. Marfu' is 5 types. Marfu' qawli, marfu' by wording, ascribing to the Prophet by his words, saying this is his words, ascribing the words to him, such as the hadith of Abdullah ibn Umar, بني الإسلام على 5 شهادة أن لا إله إلا الله وأن محمد رسول الله وإقام الصلاة وإيتاء الزكاة إلى آخر الحديث. The religion is built on what? 5 pillars. The Prophet said this, so the words are ascribed to the Prophet. It's called marfu' al-qawli. 2. Al-marfu' al-fi'li, ascribing the action to the messenger. Such as what? كان النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم ينام على جنبه الأيمن. The Prophet used to sleep on his right side. Now this is an action, right? كان, he used to sleep on his right side. This is called marfu' qawli fi'li. Fi'li. It's his action, that which he sallallahu alayhi wa sallam used to do. The third, which is marfu', which is iqraran. Iqrar means something that was done in his presence and he was silent about it. It's a ruling, we accept it. If something was done in his presence sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and he had said nothing about it, it's as though he said, do it. It's the same ruling. And evidence for that one, to ascribe to something that the Prophet, that was done in front of him, to ascribe to him, and that he said nothing about, is like the hadith of Jabir, كُنَّا نَعْزِلُ وَالْقُرْآنُ يَنزِلُ. We used to ejaculate outside and the Quran used to come down. Meaning we have intimacy with our wife, just before we were about to come, we will take it out and we will come outside. We will ejaculate outside because we don't want to have children. كُنَّا نَعْزِلُ, we used to do azl. Azl is that. وَالْقُرْآنُ يَنزِلُ, and the Quran, they call it coitus interruption, I think. Something like that. Also they call it withdrawal. All of them. Which means the man But now they use other means like condom, or the woman takes contraceptions, tablets or whatever. But so this is the evidence for it that it's permissible. Was it done when the Prophet was alive? Yes. So why is it Jabir saying we used to do this and the Prophet, meaning the Quran would have prohibited us from it if it wasn't allowed. It would have said to us that you can't do it. So this is iqrar. The Prophet, some people may say, but the Prophet didn't know. How do you know the Prophet knew? We say if he didn't know, Allah knew, and Allah would have sent a ruling regarding it. So iqrar is a hukum. It's a ruling. It's as powerful as the Prophet saying, alayhi salatu wasalam. It's the same. The fourth is that Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam has characteristics in terms of his appearance, how he looked. How he looked, alayhi salatu wasalam. The way Allah created him. It's also marfu'. You can ascribe it to the Prophet. It's like the hadith of Anas ibn Malik, which is in the kitab Shama'il al-Muhammadiyah. The Prophet's description, كان ربعة من القوم. The Prophet was a man from, like, he was a general person. He was from the people. He wasn't that lanky person out of the crowd, like, whoa. Or he wasn't that short midget who was small in the crowd. He wasn't any of the two. He was amongst the people, like a normal individual.
Are these only the physical one or all of his characters?
No, we're going to come to just the physical one. كان ربعة من القوم. It's called صفة الخلقية. خلقية, the way Allah created him. كان ربعة من القوم ليس بالطويل, he wasn't too tall. ولا بالقصير, he wasn't short. أزهر اللون. He sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was flowery, yellowish. ليس بالأبيض أمحق ولا آدم ليس بجعد سقط ولا سبط. He sallallahu alayhi wa sallam wasn't very pale and white. And his hair sallallahu alayhi wa sallam wasn't silky and it wasn't curly. It was in between alayhi sallam. Everything Allah made him in between alayhi sallam. That was what? Sifatuhu al-khalqiyya. That's marfu'. All this ascribed to him. Also, sifatuhu khuluqiyya, his character, his morals, his character. The way he was, his characteristics in his character, his manners, alayhi salatu wasalam. Aisha said, Kana khuluquhu al-Qur'an. His character was the Qur'an, alayhi salatu wasalam. Those are the 5 types of marfu'. What about if a sahabi says, what about if a companion says something? He doesn't ascribe it to the Prophet. Listen to this, brothers. A companion says something. He does not ascribe to that which he just said to the Prophet. But it's from the unseen. What is it? It's from the unseen. A companion informs us about the grave and what happens in the grave, or informs us about Jannah, what's inside Jannah. And he doesn't ascribe it to the Prophet. What's the ruling?
Because the issue of Aqidah, it goes to the Prophet anyway, because he wouldn't have said it unless the Prophet told him.
So we're going to say the wording is mawquf, meaning it stops at the companion, lakin the ruling is marfu'. So mawqufu lafdhan, marfu'u hukman. Mawquf meaning the companion speech. Whose speech is it? Companion speech. Lakin it's what? Marfu'. Ruling wise, we're going to give it like the Prophet said it, alayhi salatu wasalam, because we're going to say this Sahabi, how did he get this from? Well, no one else except the Prophet. Except Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As. And also Abdullah ibn Salam. Those two know. Exception of the Qaeda principle. Why? Because they used to read from the Jews in the manuscripts. So they might have narrated from there. Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As, if he narrates something that's from the unseen, that is unknown, and he narrates it, the scholars don't give it the ruling of hukm marfu'. They say la'alla, because the possibility now is mixed up with another possibility, which is what? He could have went to the... And Abdullah ibn Amr asked the day of Khaybar, when the Jews got killed, he came with 2 big, what do you call it? Zawiyatayn, 2 big bags full of the manuscripts that they owned. And he was taking it. He was reading it. So the scholars, they said, Naam. Is that when the Jews got slaughtered, 600 of them? Naam. So he took it with him, and what did he do? He was reading it. Naam. So,
Mawquf is anything that's not marfu'.
Mawquf is what the companion says. So how many times is the mawquf going to be for the companion? 5. Two. You're right. 2. Al-mawqufu qawliyu. The speech of the companion is what? Mawquf. And also mawquf fi'li. the action of the companion is also mawquf. Those two are what? Mawquf. So if a companion says something like Abu Bakr said, Al-kadhibu mujanibun lil-iman. Lying is the opposite to iman. It's his speech. He said it from Imam himself. He didn't ascribe it to the Prophet. Also, the action of a companion, Umar ibn Khattab, مثلا, he used to do qunut qabla al-ruku', before the ruku' and after the ruku'. He used to do it. Sometimes he used to do after the ruku', sometimes he used to do before he does the ruku'. He used to do the qunut. Umar ibn Khattab. This is the action of a companion. It's mawquf. Mawquf. It's an action of a sahabi or a speech of a sahabi. If somebody says to you, what is marfu'? What are you going to say? What about mawquf? So anything that's ascribed to a companion is mawquf, and anything that's ascribed to the Prophet is what? Marfu'. What about maqtu'? Maqtu' is what's ascribed to the tabi'i. Brothers, why would we need to know? Why do we need to know? Why do we need to know what is marfu' and what is maqtu' and what is mawquf? What's the benefit in it? Why would somebody need to know what is the Prophet's speech, what the companion's speech is, and what the tabi'in speech is?
So you don't get the sunnah mixed up, maybe? You might be taking as a hadith, maybe? If we didn't know the difference, then someone might put that as what the Prophet said when he did it.
Good. So distinguishing between the Prophet's speech and a Sahabi's speech and a Tabi'i's speech, to know whose speech it is. But still, why would we want to know? What's the reason behind it?
Generally speaking, you can't extract the ruling from the speech of the Sahabi, which you can from the Prophet.
So the Prophet is a divine ruling. We have to take it. Sahabi, do we have to take it? No, we don't have to take it. Unless there's a consensus amongst them. Yeah? There's a dispute whether the Sahabi's qawl is a hujjah or his action is a proof. It's a khilaf amongst usuliyin. Are you with me? But the Prophet? No. It has to be taken. Alayhi salam. Also, the next benefit to know is, the other benefit to know is, Imam al-Shafi'i rahimahullah, he said, and we're going to come to it inshallah, which is another type that we're going to study, which is known as the mursal. Mursal is basically when a tabi'i ascribes something to the Prophet and he drops a companion or somebody between him and the Prophet, he drips it out. Imam al-Shafi'i said this narration won't be accepted. If a tabi'i says something, it won't be accepted, but he gave it these conditions. We're going to come to it. It's called mursal. We're not going to accept this. But Shafi'i said if a Sahabi had done something close to what this person is saying, it strengthens it. You with me? So if a Tabi'i ascribes something to the Prophet, and then we find a Sahabi doing what he ascribed to the Prophet, there's a chance that we can say this is what the Prophet ﷺ said. So with that, it can support it. It can become what? A awadid, a supporter that uplifted to know what is the speech of the Prophet or what not. And there are many other benefits that are present. The Shaykh went on to say, وَالْمُسْنَدُ الْمُتَّصِلُ الْإِسْنَادِ مِنْ رَاوِيهِ حَتَّى الْمُصْطَفَى وَلَمْ يَبِنْ. Here now he's going to mention to us what is al-musnad. What does a musnad mean? Musnad is something that two characteristics are found in it. مَجْتَمَعَتْ فِيهِ صِفَتَانِ. Something that two characteristics are found in it. First of all, the chain of narration is connected and it's ascribed to the Prophet. The hadith is called musnad. If you ever hear a hadith which is musnad, what is it called? Musnad means the hadith is what? It's connected.
The chain of narration.
It's connected.
Like in A'mal al-Baniyah.
Naam.
That hadith, for example, has got Bukhari and Muslim.
So that hadith is connected, right?
Yeah.
And who's it ascribed to?
The Prophet.
So if it's ittisalu sanad, the chain of narration is apparently connected and it's ascribed to the Prophet, what is it called? Musnad. This is called what?
Is there a reason behind Musnad Ahmad being called Musnad Ahmad?
That's what his job is. That's the job of that hadith book. It's a chain of narration is connected and the Prophet said it. That's his job. That's all he wants to do. Bukhari is also Musnad. So is Bukhari Musnad?
Would be marfu'.
All the hadiths in there should be marfu'. Naam. Like not Muwatta Imam Malik. Muwatta, that's his not job. Or Musannaf. That's not his job. He'll bring to you what? The view of the companions. Or the fiqh of the companions. Are you with me? Like in a kitab which is Musnad? No. What's his job?
It's marfu'.
The Prophet ﷺ's speech, and it has to be connected. It has to be marfu' with sanad connected.
There's some hadith in Bukhari that mawquf.
Yeah. There's exceptions, boy. Bukhari rahimahullah ta'ala, he mentions riwayat of the Sahabas. A lot of the times he doesn't mention the chain of narration because he's not from his conditions. We're going to go into the conditions of Bukhari next time. Let's not confuse ourselves too much with it. Then he goes on to say, وَمَا بِسَمْعِ كُلُّ رَاوِ يَتَّصِلْ إِسْنَادُهُ لِلْمُصْطَفَى فَالْمُتَّصِلْ. He says, وَمَا بِسَمْعِ, and the hearing of كُلُّ رَاوٍ, every narrator, يَتَّصِلْ is connected. Every narrator narrated from the other narrator, and it is connected. It's a what? It's a connected narration. إِسْنَادُهُ is chain لِلْمُصْطَفَى فَالْمُتَّصِلْ. He's just telling us what we took before, which is the connection of chain of narration. If a hadith is ascribed to the Prophet and it's connected, then it's connected. So what is it? It's a hadith which is muttasil. If it's correctly ascribed to the Prophet. Why is he teaching us that? Because before he taught us what? Marfu', right? And now he teaches us muttasil together, marfu' and muttasil together. What's it called? We just took it now. Musnad. A muttasil and a marfu' together is called what? A musnad. Good. We finished that one. Sorted. Now we're going to go to another type which is called what? Musalsal. What is a musalsal? مسلسل قل ما على وصف أتى مثل أما والله أنبأني الفتى كذاك قد حدثنيه قائما وبعد أن حدثني تبسما. What's مسلسل? مسلسل, first of all, it's an emphasizer of a chain of narration. It's connected. The hadith being connected is an emphasizer. What does it mean, musalsal? Musalsal basically means every person in the chain of narration, what do? They narrate the hadith one after the other by a particular characteristics. In a particular characteristics. All of the narrators, when they narrate it in the same characteristics. They all are in the same characteristics. Either by way of speech or by way of action, or both of them. Some of you may ask, okay, example of a matter like that. If I say, a narrator will narrate the hadith and he's laughing. And then he said, why don't you ask me why I'm laughing? And then he said to, why are you laughing? It's because the one that told me laughed. And then the one told him laughed. And then the Prophet laughed and Allah laughed. And that was a chain of narration like that.
You would laugh when he's narrating.
When he finished the hadith, he said, أَلَا تَسْأَلُونِ بِمَا أَضْحَكُ. Why don't you ask me what I'm laughing at? And they ask him, why are you laughing? And then he says to them, the reason why I'm laughing is because so and so when he told me he was laughing. And then so and so when he laughed, he asked us, why don't you ask me? And then hey, and then the Prophet until it goes to the Prophet, and then the Prophet says, oh people, why don't you ask me why I'm laughing? And they say, Ya Rasulullah, why are you laughing? He says, Allah laughed. So this hadith is musalsal. All of them did it in the same characteristic.